Hello, and welcome to today's session of Crafting with Cathy. Oh wait, sorry, that was the wrong video. Anyway, so we had like, 7 different crafts over the summer, and those were all super fun. So I thought we would continue those with at least 1 craft a month. We might end up doing 2 depending on the popularity. But the craft for September is this really cool, as I am modeling it because I am now a model. It's this very cool like earmuff scarf, or like, a headband that goes over the ears to keep you warm. Isn't it pretty? I made it myself. So we're going to show you how to make one of these today. Yeah? I'm going to take it off now because it's a little warm because it's not winter. But yeah. Oof. Wow. Anyway, so there it is. Isn't it pretty? We're using this nice, really chunky yarn that I have, so it makes it super poofy and makes it nice and squishy. So exciting. So if you are interested in making one of these, beginning on Monday, September 21st, you can come to the library and pick up one of the teen craft kits and get what you need to make this, which is basically just the yarn. Everything else you need, you're just gonna need like a pair of scissors, maybe, probably you need a pair of scissors, but mostly just your hands because we're gonna finger knit. So exciting. And let's see, and we are now open to the public. So you can either come by our open hours, which is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and come upstairs to the youth services desk and pick up a kit. Or if you don't want to physically come into the building, you can give us a call at 760-839-5456. Actually, yeah, you would just call us when we're open and we can always just bring it out to you. It doesn't have to be our specific curbside hours. Just as long as we're open, we can always bring it out to you if you don't want to come into the building yet. Okay, so here's my original piece. I made it a little too big for my head. But it's a little stretchy, so you want to make sure it fits your head. So I'm going to put this one to the side, and I'm going to start with my yarn. So my other one, I've got this other yarn. It's a little teeny bit thicker than this one. This is the yarn that you'll be getting. It's not going to be, I have a couple of different colors in this particular yarn, but yeah, I just wanted to use this yarn because I had it. But it's also kind of chunky, just like this one. Okay, so you need to start by making it, okay? So here's the end of your yarn. He's so sad, end of yarn. So to start it, you need to make a slip knot. This is really difficult sometimes for me to do, so bear with, okay? If you can't figure it out, you can always check the YouTube. But basically, you want to take your yarn, like that, like maybe 6 inches, something like that. Make it in, and then you want to grab it with your fingers like this, pinch it together, and then put your pointer finger and your thumb inside the yarn. This is the tricky part. You have to like turn this and then take your fingers, grab the yarn, and then pull it through. And it should, now see, I'm just not really good at it. I have to do it a couple of times. See, I'm just not good at it. So you put it together, you pinch it, put your fingers in here, and you sort of twist. It's kind of weird. Pinch it together, and then you twist, and then you grab the yarn, and it's supposed to make a slip knot. Ooh, wait, I think I did it. I did it! Ha ha! I did it! Okay, it's gonna take a couple of tries for it to work. But if for some reason you can't figure it out, you can always just tie it to your finger. That's fine. Okay, so now we've made a slip knot. Look at that, we did it. Now, if you are right-handed, you're gonna want to finger knit on your left hand. If you're left-handed, you're probably going to want to finger knit on your right hand. That's up to you, but I am right-handed, so I'm going to finger knit on my left hand. Actually, I'm going to take this off so it doesn't start making weird noises. It fell on the floor, but it's okay. So what you're going to do, take your hand, flip it over, take the slip knot, and you want to put it on your ring finger, and then you just want to tighten the knot so that it's close to your finger. Now to start, it's tight enough. To start, you want to take your working yarn, that's what they call this, working yarn, and you want to wrap it around each one of your fingers, and you want to go behind the finger, okay? So you would wrap it around the finger, and then around your other finger, and around the third finger. So you always want to start at the back of your finger, not the inside of the finger, right? So since you are starting, you have to add an extra row. So from here, you're right here, and you need to do the same thing. Start on the back of the finger, but you want to go the other direction, right? So back of the finger, back and around, and back and around, right? So now you have 2 rows on 3 of your fingers. At all times, you will have 3 fingers like this that will have 2 loops, okay? Either this one is only going to have 1, or this one is only going to have 1. But there are going to be at least 3 of your fingers, whether it's these 3 or these 3, that will have a second loop on it. So you don't want loops on all 4 at the same time, okay? So we've done that. So now what you want to do is you take the bottom loop and you just grab it and you pull it over the top loop. And you do that for all 3 ones. Just be careful that this doesn't slip off your finger. But there we go, right? Aha! And then look, it's a stitch, sort of, kind of. It looks like a bit of a mess, but it'll look better. Since usually if you use a thinner yarn, you don't really need to tighten it as you're working, but because we're using a chunky yarn, every time you do a stitch, you want to just kind of pull on it just a little bit to make sure it's tight and it gives you enough room to work with a chunky yarn, okay? Because this can be done with any type of yarn. Okay, so we started. Now we just need to do stitches. So we take our working yarn. So if you notice, the yarn was here first and now it's over here. It's going to keep doing that. It'll be here or it'll be over here. So if it's here on your ring finger, you're going to put loops around these 3 fingers here. If this is on your pinky, you're going to put loops on these 3 fingers, okay? So it's here on my ring finger, so I'm going to put, remember you go around or on the back side of your finger. So 1, 2, and 3. Oh, my hand is starting to cramp. And then you do the same thing. You pull, and then you can make this loose. I mean, depending on your finger size, you can just pull it over. You don't need to keep it like insanely, it doesn't have to be insanely tight, but just enough that you can actually like function. See, we made a stitch, and then I come over and I just kind of pull it, see how to tighten it a little bit? Just to tighten it. You just kind of grab it and tighten. You don't have to, but like I said, with a chunkier yarn, it's going to end up starting to build and it's going to just get in the way of your fingers. Okay, so now see here we're at our pinky, because we're basically just going back and forth like this, right? So we're at the pinky, so that means we're going to need to put a row or a loop around each of these 3 fingers. So remember the back of the finger. So you go around the back, and around the back, right? And then there we go. And it doesn't matter which loop you put over which first. You know, you can do this finger first, you can do the ring finger first, whatever you want to do. It doesn't, the scheme of things, it doesn't matter, right? So see how it's like puffy right here, right next to my hands, right? If I don't come over here and pull on it to tighten it a little bit, when I go to make my next stitch, there's not going to be a lot of room. Like say, let's do that. Let's not pull on this, right? It's a little chunky, right? Let's not tighten it. And then if we take, and always just when you're stitching, you want to leave enough room here so that you can put a loop around your finger without it falling off. So I always kind of constantly push these down a little bit so you have enough room. Especially because we're using a chunky yarn, you're going to need a little bit more room, and rather than if we were using a thinner yarn. So let's not tighten it, right? So here it is on our ring finger. So we're gonna put loops around these 3 fingers. So behind the finger and around, behind the finger and around, right? So there we are. We have our 3 loops, and then we're gonna put them over the other ones. And we didn't tighten the previous stitch like I always do. It's horrible. Let's see. So look, and we didn't tighten it, so now it kind of looks bulky. I mean, it's gonna look bulky anyway, but in my opinion, it's best just to pull this and then tighten every time, because it works nicely. So look, this is your back side, your underside, and then this is the top part. And if you see, it's already sort of coming together, right? So basically, you just keep doing this, what we're doing, over and over and over, until it gets long enough to fit around your head. So what you want to do, as you're working with this, and as it gets longer, you want to grab it and put it around your head to measure it, to see if it's going to fit around your head. Because once you're like, I don't know if it's big enough, just pick it up, put it around your head where it needs to rest over your ears, and measure. And like, oh, okay, they meet, or they're gonna meet if I do one more stitch, right? Then do one more stitch. And then you also want to take into account, well, this original one that I made is a little big because it doesn't sit very tightly on my head, and I like it to be a little bit tighter, right? And if you'll notice, this kind of stretches a little bit. So you want to take into account that if you do too many stitches or rows, you're going to end up with something that's a little bit more stretchy and it's going to be looser. But if you don't mind that, that's perfectly fine. But you want to make sure that you can even pull it when you're measuring it on your head to see if it's going to fit, depending on if you like a tighter fit or a looser fit. If it's looser, you can actually use it as sort of like a little cowl or a little scarf color-y type thing. Yeah, I'll show that to you a little bit later. So all you gotta do is just keep doing this over and over and over until it's long enough to fit around your head. Okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and continue doing more stitches until it is long enough. Okay? BRB. Okay, so the magic of television. Cameras or something. So we started out with a little teeny piece like this, and I just kept going and going and making stitches and making stitches and making stitches, and it's still on my hand, but now it's really long. And I have put this on top of my head, and I've made sure that it's gonna fit, and we are ready to close it off, to end the piece, right? Whew. And this is the back side. You should see the back side like this as you're working, and then this is the top side. It looks so pretty, like strudel. But you can tell this is the back side because it's got like these little sections on the back, and then it kind of opens like that. And then let's see. So I'm going to show you how to like end this, because this was your beginning, so it's already sort of ended. And then this is your end, right? Wait, I'm gonna check it on my head first, just to make sure. Yeah, that's gonna work. Okay, so here, let me there's just so much of it. So what you wanna do, this is the rest of your skein or your yarn. You're gonna need to cut your yarn. So you wanna cut, I don't know, the length of your pencil. You don't need tons, but you want to cut like at least 6 inches. So about here, just cut your yarn. And okay, this is the fun part. Okay, now I have to remember. Just gonna stick that over here. It's in my way. It's so like a big snake. Okay, so here's your yarn. So what you're gonna do is, this is kind of hard. You need to close this off because you're done, right? So what you want to do is take the yarn, and you want to put it around the back of your hand. Like, we don't need to make more loops this way, but you want to take this, put it around the back of your hand so that it lays over your loops, right, like this, okay? And then what you want to do is take this yarn, the end of your yarn, and put it through each of these loops. Like pull it through this one, right? And once you've pulled it through, you can let it off of your finger, right? Sorry, it's hard to see because my hand is in the way. And then you just put it through this loop. Yeah. Sometimes life is hard. That's what's the problem sometimes when you use a chunkier yarn, is finding the room to do stuff. Okay, so it's through that loop, and now we can take that off of your finger. And now we need to pull it through this loop. The end of this yarn is just a little weird. I think that's why. Yay! So we can pull it off of this loop, off of this finger. And now we need to pull it through this last loop here. I probably could have done this a little better, but the end of this yarn is just very fuzzy because it's a chunkier, fuzzy yarn. And then you can just pull it off of your finger like that. So if you can find your original loops, right? You've got this one, this one, this one, and this one. But sometimes it's hard to figure out which one is the loop, right? If you can find those again, pull your yarn, see how it's coming through these loops? Pull your yarn again, or to tighten it a little bit more. And then sometimes the pencil helps, or something pointy. You can stick through it like a knitting needle to help find your path. But once you've pulled it, if you can take the end of the yarn and put it back through those loops one more time, or you can just kind of pull to loosen the loops. 1, 2, 3, 4. But if we can, I'll take this pencil out. But if you can take this and put it back through your 4, see, there's my thumb, your 4 original loops. Oh, okay. Gonna need to loosen these a little bit to get a tighter knot. There we go. This end of this yarn is just really poofy. Here, I'm just gonna twist it a little bit so that it's a little skinnier, a little easier to use. There we go. Ah, I did it! So yes. And then now you can just yank. You can just pull. Sometimes this yarn is a little weird, or it catches on other little pieces of things. But don't worry, the other yarn is not so bad. This one is a little weird. Sorry, my yarn is being not a happy camper. Anyway, then you just kind of pull really tight and you end up with like this knot at the end, okay? I think there's one of these loops that it's stuck on for some reason. Anyway, but there it is. Just pull really tight and it should automatically sort of tighten. And there it is. Okay. There. So we've made one whole loopy roundy thing. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to repeat all of the steps again, and you're going to make a second one, right? And the best way to make sure that you're making each piece the same length is when you look at this at the back side, it's upside down. You know this little spot where it opens? You can count your stitches. Like if you look at this, you can see these like loops that sort of match together like this. We don't count the weird one in front near the knot, but you can count this one like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So you can kind of keep that number in mind, 18, when you do your next piece, so that they are pretty much the same length. Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. And if you notice, it has a little bit of stretch, which is great. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna start a new one. And you can always go back to earlier in the video if you can't remember how to start it. And we're gonna make another one. And then as you work, you can count these little, I guess they call them loops. See how they kind of go together? They're like little, I don't know how to, it's a weird shape. But you can count these, and we had 18. So I went ahead, for the purposes of this video, and made a second piece. And then I'm gonna show you how to attach them together to make one nice big squishy piece. Okay? So here, aha! Look, here's the other one. They look almost exactly the same. Actually, let me flip this one this way. There we go. There they are. So now they're together and they vaguely look the same length. And the important part of counting those stitches is to make sure that they're the same length if you can, so that when you put these together, like it all matches up and it's all the same length. Okay? So you want to take your two pieces and you want to face them with the back side up. Like we were talking, it's that side that has the little, that you can open these, and it has these little, like little, I don't know what you call these. They make me think of, I don't know, but you want it the side facing up that has these little things because you have a set on each side, right? And we're going to use those stitches, those, can't think of the word. Anyway, we're going to use these to actually attach the two pieces together. Because if you see here, this is the one that I made. You can tell that these two pieces were put together like so. So basically, you just take more of your yarn and you want to cut a big piece so that you can use that to almost sort of like stitch your way through it and stitch it together. So let's see, I'm just gonna I probably don't need a whole piece like this because it's gonna go through and pull, but just to be on the safe side, use, a longer piece just in case. Because if you have extra, that's perfectly fine. You can always cut it off. So just cut off a piece. Just trying to think if that's what I need to be doing. Yes, it is. Okay. Want to make sure I'm not making a mistake. So you have your two pieces like that, and you've got your piece of yarn. Oh, so this is the fun part. You need to match up your stitches. Like I said, those stitches here that look like this, you want to find the first one on this piece, and you want to find the first one on this piece, right? And you can kind of tell this is the first one and that's the second, right? So you want to take the end of your yarn and you want to put it, let's see, this one is a little weird. You want to put it through this one, just underneath it. And then you want to take it and find the other one here, and you want to pull that, just pull it underneath it. And then just pull till you get to the end, or leave like a little bit of slack, because this you're going to need at the end to tie everything off. So just kind of leave it maybe as long as some of your other pieces, right? And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to find, sorry, my nose is itchy and I want to sneeze. Sometimes yarn makes me sneeze, don't know why. So this is your first one. You found it. Then you find your second one. Kind of squish your fingers in there to find the separation area. Separation area. And then put the yarn through that one. And you want to make sure that you don't go through this loop here. You want to make sure you go underneath it, because you don't want to make a knot of any kind. And then you need to find your second loop that matches on this side and put it underneath. See, so it kind of like pulls them together. And this is sitting out over here, so you can pull this a little bit if you want, just to give it a little tighter connection, depending on how tight or loose you want it. I just yank it a little bit so it isn't really tight, but it's holding them together really well. And it's hard to lose things in your color scheme, because you're like, oh my God, there's so, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? But just follow your string, because you're like, where is the next one? I'm like, wait a minute. I know it's right here, but you're like, no, you can see your string coming underneath that one. So you're like, no, it's got to be, this is the next one. So we just do the same thing. And make sure not to pull, see if you do this, it's going to make like a weird knot. We don't want that. So make sure just to keep it out away from the other knot. Okay. And we're like, okay, that was the first one. This is the second one. And again, you can tell because you can see the yarn coming out from underneath the second one. So you know that, okay, this is the third one. If you're unsure, you make a mistake, you can always take it out and redo it. Okay. And then you just kind of pull a little bit just to keep them together. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to do this all the way down to the end, and I will see you on the other side. Okay, so here we are. We have taken our yarn. Again, make sure you cut a long enough piece, and we have connected those pieces together. If you can see you can kind of see how I connected them, or we went all the way down. Sometimes it's a little slow going. Double check to make sure that you're matching up the right loops. Like this one, I think one of them, this other side might have been like one stitch too long. So sometimes they won't match up exactly, but if they don't, you can always like undo this one and pull out this and then find the loops again and then tie it off again. It's not gonna go anywhere, but you can always adjust. It isn't an exact science, and plus sometimes the numbers don't match up when you're counting your stitches. But here it is. It's kind of bulky, but there it is. And then if you flip it over, now you can see that they're attached to each other, and then they have this nice little line. It's really great when you're using yarn that's multicolored like this, because then it almost sort of blends in. If you're using solid colors, which you won't be using for this, if you want to make one again, you can always do that. So now, so that means each end we have 3 ties. We've got the middle one that tied the pieces together, and then we have the end ties for the 2 pieces. So we have that on all 3 ends. 1, 2, 3. So what we need to do is sort of tie these off so that they're sort of all together. So what you want to do, just going to flip this around, just grab all 3 pieces and just kind of yank on them a little bit. Some of them are knotted because it's the end of the piece. So just kind of pull on the knot to make it a little bit more secure, tie it, and get a little bit more yarn in the process. This one will just pull because it's attached, but then that will tighten up basically your tie. So you want to grab all 3, a nice little thingamadoodle, and then you want to tie them together. Like so, I'll grab all 3 and tie them together in a knot. This might be a little hard because it's chunky. So I kind of like, maybe twist them together like this to get a better connection. And then if you got all 3 in there, make sure you do. Okay. Some might be a little longer or shorter than others. Then you just want to like pull that knot down as far as you can to the base. Like just see how that is. You just want to use your inner muscles. You want to yank that down. So you have one nice little thingamadoodle here. You can also take, like if you want to make this all one size, you can, just so it's even. Woo! Right? So we got this all nice and tied, and we're gonna do the woo flip. We're gonna do the same thing with the other end. We're gonna yank on these. Ooh, see, I'm pulling this middle one and it's going. That's okay. This is the knot for the other one. Woo! Oh, my yarn! It fell off. What am I going to do? Uh-oh. And I poked myself with something and now I'm bleeding. Anyway, I think it was this pencil. Or my scissors. Could have been my scissors. It was probably my scissors. Anyway. So that was tragic. I don't know how we're going to fix this, but Yay, because we need to tie all 3 of these together. And this one is very, 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 very short. So we're just going to go ahead and pull it out of one of the knots here. Just find the end of it. So sad. It looks like a little troll. Yeah. Little troll doll. We're just going to pull this out a little bit so we have more yarn. Now I just got to find out where the rest of this yarn came from. Nope, that's not it. Oh my gosh. It's not an exact art, this yarn business. But let's see. Sometimes you got to yank on it to find out where it's coming from. Is that it? Oh, that's it. Okay. Okay. Pull it out a little bit farther. You might lose a loop or 2, but you know, emergency! This is why you should always leave a nice, really big, long tail on the ends of your pieces. Ooh, blood, it's so yummy. Okay, there we go. And I don't know if anything is gonna come out, but not usually, if you usually pull really hard. But don't pull so hard that your yarn breaks. I'm just so strong, I didn't know it. And then we're gonna pull this one a little bit more. Okay, so now we have 3. It's probably just this yarn, so I'm not gonna worry about it. So now we have all 3, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna just twist it, 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 twist it. Because actually this helps quite a lot if you twist it. And then we're gonna tie it off in one big knot. Oh, goodness gracious. I think I got everything in here. I'm just gonna 1, 2. I don't have that other shorter piece. I think it's in here. I don't know. Not gonna worry about it. We're just gonna pull. Looks good. Like I said, it's not an exact science. And it might look weird, but that's okay. So here you go. Now you can, again, do the same thing on this side. You can sort of trim your pieces. I don't know where that 3rd piece is. So I think it's right here. There it is. It's just really teeny because, yeah, we're just gonna yank on that a little bit. Okay. Whew, whew. So here we are. So you have a couple of options with this. Now that it looks like this and it can go over your head, you can, if it's got enough stretch here, which it looks like it does, you can either leave it like this and then just attach it to your head using these strings and then unattach it when you're done with it. With this one, since it fit, I just went ahead and took the strings and tied them all to each other so that I could just take it on and off without untying it because there was enough stretch. Yeah? So usually if there is enough stretch, you can do that. I'm just gonna make sure. Yeah, I think it's got enough stretch. Oh yeah, totally. Check it, put it on your head, make sure that it's got enough stretch because it's easier not to have to tie it every time you put it on your head. So basically, you can either just tie all of these together or you can tie them individually to each other. Whatever you want to find is whatever you think is the most secure. I think for this one, I tied each one to each other and then tied one to the other one to make this like insanely weird knot business. And then, you know, you can just trim the business off here. But for this one, I think, make sure to tie it on the right side. I think we're just gonna tie these together. Because you could do like one, tie this one to this one, tie this one to this one, tie this one to that one. But why? So we're just gonna tie them all together. So one has 3 and the other has 2. So I'm just sort of like tying them together in just a very basic knot, you know? And then I'm going to do it one more time and then we should be, woo! But then it ends up doing that. Woo! That's so fun. What's that? I don't know. So again, this is another reason to make sure that your tails are really long when you're doing your pieces and you're weaving it in to attach them so that when you come to this end part, you have enough stuff to tie together. So I'm just gonna go crazy and I am just gonna tie singles because those are a little easier at this point. But I would prefer to tie all of them together. But you can just take singles and kind of tie them together like that, and then tie it together, tie it again. This yarn is squishy. Like that. Just pull really tightly. And then this one had one more, but then this one had two more. So we'll just tie these two and this one together. You can do whatever you want as long as you feel it's secure enough. So we tie it once, and then we're gonna tie it a second time. Oof, so hard with chunky yarn. This yarn is pretty chunky. The other stuff that I used for my original piece was a little bit easier to work with than this one, but I just thought it was so pretty. Anyway, I hope you will like this project and that you'll pop in to grab a kit, and then you can make your own. So I'm gonna tie that, there we go. I'm such a, okay. So we've made all of these weird knots, so it kind of looks like this. It's like a big knot. But if you want to clean it up, just cut off the rest of your yarn. Just leave a little fuzz at the end, just so you're not cutting it off too close to the actual knot. You know, like, okay. Oof. Okay, see, that looks much better. Now it's just like a little fuzz ball. And now we're gonna put it on our head. Can we see our head? Okay, excellent. Uh-oh. So this one, for some reason, is a little twisty. He likes to be a little twisty, but that's okay. So we're gonna put it on our head. So there we go. Oh my gosh, it covers my ears. My ears are warm, and then you can see this little knot in the back. You can always like cover that if you want. But it's covering my ears. Super warm. I'm super cute. I'm ready for an out of the town when it's super cold. And what you actually can do, if this is, and this is actually much nicer, like tighter than this one is, so it feels better. But if you really want, if you don't want to put it on your head, you can always just, depending on the size of your head and your neck, you can always put it down here, and like, it might bug you because this one's a little tighter for my head. So this is a little bit like, this is a little much. It's much better on your head, right? But with this one, since this one I made it a little looser on my head, it still fits my head very loosely, but then I can just stick it here, and it hangs a little bit looser for my neck. So if you really want, and you have enough yarn, you could even make these long enough. Instead of making the earmuff, you can still make it. But if you make it long enough, then it can just kind of sit on your neck like this, if you prefer. But, sorry, yarn in my mouth. But if you don't mind this, then you're good to go. If you want, you can always take some more of your yarn and like somehow attach it to one of these, maybe, or wrap it around this, because if you wrap it around and around and around, kind of like this, it sort of covers the knot and makes it a little bit more attractive. And then you could just weave the ends of the yarn into here if you want to cover up the knot, but it's not necessary. Yeah, so there is that. Yarn fuzz everywhere. So there's that. You've got a nice little fun ear muff when it gets cold outside and you go out with your friends. Or if you want to make it a little bit longer, and if you have enough yarn, you can make just sort of like a weird, like chunky cowl. I guess a cowl is a good word for it. Or a little teeny like chunky scarf that's just right on your neck. Yeah? Okay. There we go. Pick up your craft kit, 10 to 6, Monday through Saturday. Pop into the youth services desk, pick up a kit. They're available beginning September 21st. And we'll probably have about maybe 35 to 40 kits. And so there's no end date. You can pick one up until they're gone. And so we might even have a couple in a couple of weeks. If you're unsure, you can always just give us a call, 760-839-5456, to double check to see if we have any left, if it's, say, been a couple of weeks. Okay? Enjoy your finger knitting, and we'll see you in October for our next craft.